Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload, I always thought loyalty was something that couldn't be questioned in my marriage. Emily and I had been together for nearly a decade, and although like every couple we had our ups and downs, I believed in the foundation we had built. Or at least I convinced myself to believe in it. That illusion shattered the day I stumbled onto a truth I never thought I'd face. It started small. Suspicious late-night texts. Emily guarding her phone like it held state secrets. And that laugh she gave when she received messages at odd hours. I wanted to trust her, but doubts gnawed at me. Then there was James, my closest friend since college. He was like family, always around, always welcomed at our house. He and Emily got along well, maybe too well, but I brushed it off. What kind of man suspects his wife of cheating with his best friend? The answer, I learned, is the man who finds undeniable proof. One Saturday morning, Emily was out running errands and I was cleaning up around the house. Her laptop was open on the table. Normally, I respected her privacy, but something inside me urged me to check. It wasn't a planned decision. It was instinct, the kind of gut feeling you can't ignore. I clicked on her messages and my stomach turned cold. There it was, message after message between her and James. Not just casual chats, but intimate, secretive exchanges. Plans to meet, memories of stolen nights, inside jokes meant to keep me in the dark. My hands trembled as I scrolled through them, each word cutting deeper than the last. When she walked in later, bags of groceries in hand, I confronted her. My voice shook, but my anger gave me strength. "Emily, how long have you been seeing James behind my back?" For a split second, shock flashed across her face, but it quickly turned into something else. Amusement. She laughed, actually laughed, as if I had told her a ridiculous joke. "You can't be serious," she said, smirking. "Even if you think you know something, you can't prove it." That laugh burned into my memory. It wasn't just betrayal, it was mockery. She wasn't sorry, she wasn't ashamed. She was daring me to do something about it. And James, he avoided me entirely after that. The guilt was obvious, but he didn't have the decency to face me. In the weeks that followed, I felt trapped. Every time I looked at Emily, I saw the woman who chose to humiliate me rather than admit the truth. Every time I thought about James, I remembered the man who was supposed to be like a brother to me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work, couldn't think of anything but their betrayal. But while Emily thought she had the upper hand, I began to plan. Quietly, carefully, I started gathering everything I needed. I wasn't going to scream or fight or beg her for honesty. No, I was going to let her words, "You can't prove it," become her undoing. I went through phone records, bank statements, even traced James's visits to our neighborhood. I spoke casually with mutual friends, pretending everything was fine, but guiding conversations until little pieces of truth slipped out. Every breadcrumb I collected became part of a bigger picture. Slowly, meticulously, I built a case that neither of them could deny. And then came the opportunity I had been waiting for. Our family reunion was approaching, a gathering where cousins, uncles, aunts, and grandparents all came together. Emily insisted we attend, trying to maintain appearances. James was going to be there too, of course, the perfect setting. I kept my composure leading up to the event. I smiled, laughed, even kissed Emily on the cheek, playing the role of the oblivious husband she thought I still was. All the while, I was preparing the moment that would change everything. When the reunion day finally arrived, I walked into that crowded house with evidence tucked securely in my pocket. Pictures, screenshots, and undeniable proof. I greeted family members, listened to their small talk, and waited for the right moment. Emily was glowing, chatting with relatives, playing the part of a loving wife. James lingered nearby, awkwardly avoiding eye contact with me. I bided my time, letting them both feel comfortable, safe, untouchable. I wanted their guard down completely. I wanted that laugh of hers to echo in her mind when the truth finally hit her. And as I watched Emily smiling, unaware of what was coming, I promised myself one thing. When the lies were revealed, it wouldn't just be a confrontation. It would be the end of the charade she had built, the destruction of every lie she thought she could hide forever. What none of them knew was that this reunion wasn't going to be remembered for catching up with distant relatives or sharing old stories. It was going to be remembered for the night everything came crashing down. And I was ready to light the match. The air inside my uncle's house buzzed with laughter, the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversations overlapping one another. Kids darted between the legs of adults, the kitchen smelled of roasted chicken and fresh bread, and the living room television played an old comedy rerun in the background. To anyone else, it was a normal family gathering. To me, it was a stage. Emily looked radiant, her carefully chosen floral dress swaying as she moved from group to group, smiling, hugging, telling stories. She blended perfectly into the fabric of family warmth, her deception masked beneath that same effortless charm that had once fooled me. And James, he was there too, his shirt pressed neatly, his laughter hollow. He avoided my gaze whenever possible, hovering near the drinks table as though it could shield him from what was coming. I watched them both carefully, every detail burned into my memory. They thought they had played me. They thought I was helpless, too blind or too weak to do anything. That laugh Emily had given me weeks earlier, "You can't prove it," rang in my ears. But instead of breaking me, it fueled me. My phone, tucked into my pocket, held a slideshow of messages, photos, call logs, and receipts. Proof stitched together so tightly that no denial could unravel it. I wasn't here to scream or to cause a fight. I was here to end the charade in front of the very people Emily wanted to keep on her side. Dinner came and went, plates cleared, children settled into a separate room with movies. Adults lingered in the living room, wine glasses in hand, conversations turning sentimental as they often did at reunions. It was my cousin who gave me the opening. "So, how have you and Emily been doing?" she asked, smiling brightly, unaware of the storm about to break. "Still the picture-perfect couple, I bet." Emily beamed, reaching for my hand as if nothing in the world could shake us. "Of course," she said sweetly. "We've never been better." And that was it. The lie so bold, so shameless, that I couldn't hold back any longer. I stood, gently letting go of her hand, and cleared my throat. "Actually," I said, my voice calm but cutting through the chatter, "there's something I think everyone here should know." The room quieted. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. Emily's smile faltered, confusion flickering in her expression. James shifted uneasily in his seat. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped the screen, and held it up for all to see. "Emily," I continued, "you've been telling everyone how perfect we are. But what you didn't tell them is that you've been secretly sleeping with James for months." Gasps rippled through the room. Chairs scraped as people leaned forward, trying to process what they'd just heard. Emily's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing as though words had abandoned her. James froze, his hand tightening around his glass. "That's ridiculous," Emily stammered, forcing a laugh, though it sounded shaky. "You're really going to ruin a family reunion with some baseless accusation?" I didn't respond with words. Instead, I tapped the screen again and projected the evidence onto the television with a single click. One by one, the messages appeared, her flirtatious texts to James, his replies, the late-night meetups, the hotel receipts. It was all there, larger than life, impossible to ignore. The silence was suffocating. Every relative stared at the screen in disbelief. Some covered their mouths, others shook their heads. Emily's hand flew to her face, tears welling as she whispered, "Please, stop." But I didn't stop. I let it play. The smirking emojis, the private jokes mocking me, the bold declarations of what they thought they'd gotten away with. Each slide was another nail in the coffin of their lies. James finally stood, his voice sharp with desperation. "This isn't the place for this. We should talk about this privately." "Privately?" I snapped, my calm mask slipping for the first time. "You had no problem betraying me publicly, under my nose, in my own home. Why should I protect you now?" Emily reached for my arm, sobbing. "Please, you're humiliating me." I pulled away. "Humiliation? No, Emily. This is called truth. The same truth you laughed at me for even suspecting." My uncle broke the silence, his voice stern. "Is this real?" he asked, his eyes darting between the screen and Emily. Neither she nor James answered. They didn't have to. The evidence spoke for itself. Whispers filled the room, relatives exchanging shocked glances. Some looked at me with pity, others at Emily and James with outright disgust. Emily's parents sat frozen, unable to meet my eyes. James's sister shook her head in disbelief, muttering under her breath about betrayal. The weight of every lie Emily had spun was collapsing on her shoulders. She covered her face, sobbing openly now, while James stood stiff, refusing to look at anyone. I felt no pity. Not anymore. "You thought I couldn't prove it," I said evenly, my gaze locked on Emily. "But here we are. Every word, every secret, every betrayal. It's all out in the open now." The silence that followed was deafening. The room was suffused with the kind of tension that couldn't be undone. Emily sank into her chair, trembling, her once perfect composure shattered. James muttered something about leaving, but no one moved to stop him. I looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each relative. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to drag this ugliness into our family gathering. But I was given no choice. Sometimes the only way to fight lies is with truth. And with that, I walked out. Behind me, voices erupted, some angry, some shocked, some whispering furiously. Emily called after me, her cries muffled by the crowd, but I didn't look back. For once, I felt a strange sense of clarity. The truth was finally in the open. The weight I had been carrying alone was gone. That night, I drove home alone. The house felt colder than ever, but it was a clean kind of cold, one that came from finally tearing away a rotten foundation. I knew nothing between us could ever be repaired, and I also knew one thing for certain: this wasn't the end of the story. The lies were exposed, but the fallout had only just begun. The drive home from the reunion was strangely quiet. My thoughts weren't racing anymore. They were steady, almost calm. For the first time in months, the truth wasn't a secret burning inside me. It was out there, exposed for everyone to see. The people who mattered now knew exactly what kind of wife Emily had been, and what kind of friend James truly was. But the fallout didn't stop at that reunion. The very next morning, my phone lit up with messages from family members. Some were supportive. "I can't believe you went through this alone. You deserve so much better. We're here for you." Others were confused, even angry. Emily's parents begged me to reconsider, insisting she was just going through a phase and that marriages can survive mistakes. I stared at those texts in disbelief. A mistake? A phase? No, what Emily had done was a deliberate choice, not once, not twice, but for months. That wasn't a stumble, it was a betrayal woven into a lifestyle. Then came the message from James, short, blunt, and cowardly. "I'm sorry you had to find out that way. We never meant to hurt you. I think it's better if we don't talk for a while." I laughed bitterly when I read it. Never meant to hurt me? How exactly did he think betraying me with my wife was going to end? It was classic James, running, avoiding accountability, acting as though silence would erase everything. Emily, on the other hand, didn't choose silence. She chose desperation. That evening, she showed up at the house. Her eyes were swollen, her hair a mess, her confident charm completely gone. She stood on the porch clutching a small bag, looking like someone who had been hollowed out. "Please," she whispered when I opened the door. "We need to talk." I didn't invite her in, but I didn't shut the door either. I just leaned against the frame, arms crossed, waiting. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, tears spilling. "I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I was lost. James was just a mistake. I don't love him. I love you. I've always loved you." Her words tumbled out in a frantic rush, as though speed alone could undo what had been revealed. "Emily," I said calmly, "you laughed in my face when I confronted you. You mocked me, you told me I couldn't prove it. That wasn't love, that was cruelty." She shook her head violently. "I was scared. I didn't know how to admit it. I thought if I laughed it off, it would go away. I didn't mean it the way it sounded." I let out a humorless chuckle. "You didn't mean it? Emily, you meant every second of it, and you meant every message you sent, every night you met with him, every lie you told our family. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise." Her tears flowed harder now. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. I'll do anything. Please, I can't lose you." I finally shook my head. You already lost me, Emily. The moment you chose him over me, the moment you laughed instead of confessing, the moment you thought I'd never find the truth. You lost me then. This isn't something counseling can fix. This isn't something time will heal. It's done. Her sobbing grew louder, but I didn't waver. For years, I had carried her happiness on my shoulders, sacrificed my time, my energy, my trust. And for what? To be treated like a fool? To be made a punchline in her private jokes with James? No, not anymore. Go home, Emily, I said finally. Whatever home you have left, but it's not here. She lingered for a moment, trembling, before finally turning and walking away. I watched her go, the sound of her footsteps fading into the night. That was the last time she came to my door. The weeks that followed were brutal in their own way, but strangely liberating. I filed for divorce. Emily fought it at first, then reluctantly agreed when she realized there was no path back. She tried to sway relatives to her side, but the evidence I'd revealed at the reunion had already cemented the truth in their minds. Her reputation crumbled, and so did James's. James avoided me completely, too ashamed or too cowardly to ever reach out again. Word spread through our old circle of friends. He lost the respect of nearly everyone. People stopped inviting him to gatherings, stopped trusting him, stopped seeing him as the charming guy he once pretended to be. And Emily? She moved in with her sister for a while, then quietly slipped into the background of family events. Where she had once been the center of attention, now she was the one people whispered about when she left the room. She went from being admired to pitied, and that seemed to sting her more than anything else. Meanwhile, I started rebuilding. Slowly, piece by piece, I focused on myself. I went to the gym, not out of anger but for me. I reconnected with hobbies I had abandoned. I traveled to places I had always said I'd see someday. Most importantly, I built a new circle of people around me. People who valued honesty, loyalty, and respect. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I felt the old pain creeping back, when the image of Emily laughing at me resurfaced in my mind, but each time I reminded myself, I had taken control. I had refused to be her victim. Months later, at another family gathering, smaller, quieter this time, I walked in without Emily by my side. Heads turned, but not in pity, in respect. My cousins pulled me aside to say they admired my strength. My aunt whispered that she wished she had had my courage when she went through something similar years ago. And when I caught sight of Emily across the room, sitting quietly in a corner, her eyes lowering when she saw me, I realized something important. My revenge hadn't been humiliating her at the reunion. Though that had been satisfying, my revenge hadn't been divorcing her or cutting ties with James. My true revenge was this. I was free. Free from lies. Free from betrayal. Free from carrying the weight of someone else's choices. I had exposed every secret, stripped away every mask, and walked away stronger than I had ever been. Emily and James would live with the consequences of their actions. The shame, the distrust, the fractured relationships. That was their burden. Mine was gone. As I left that gathering, family members clapping me on the back, offering genuine smiles, I thought back to Emily's words the day I confronted her. You can't prove it. Oh, but I had. And the silence that followed her exposure was louder, sharper, and more final than any argument could ever be. That silence was my closure. That silence was my victory. And in that silence, I finally found peace. Life has a strange way of testing whether you've truly moved on. Months after the dust had settled, I thought I had closed that chapter of my life forever. The divorce was finalized. I had my own place. And slowly, I was finding joy in the simplest things again. Then, one evening, as I left work, I saw Emily waiting by my car. She looked different. Tired, worn down, a shadow of the confident woman she used to be. Please, she said quietly, just hear me out. I considered walking past her, but something in her voice made me pause. She explained that James had abandoned her not long after the reunion. He couldn't handle the fallout, the whispers, the ruined reputation. He had left her behind, and now she was alone. I thought he cared, she admitted, tears running down her face. But he was never you. He never loved me the way you did. For a brief moment I felt pity. Not for her choices, they were hers alone, but for the reality she now faced. The man she risked everything for had shown his true colors, leaving her to carry the weight of both their betrayals. But pity doesn't erase the past. I told her calmly, "Emily, you made your choice. And I made mine. You wanted freedom, excitement, someone else. Now you have the result of that choice. I won't carry it for you." Her tears fell harder, but I didn't waver. I opened my car door and added, "I hope you find peace someday, but it won't be with me." Driving away, I realized this was the final piece of closure I needed. The reunion had exposed the lies, the divorce had ended the marriage, but this moment, facing Emily when she had nothing left to hide, was the true ending. Revenge wasn't about destroying her life. It was about reclaiming mine. And as I drove off into the night, free at last, I knew I had done just that.